Time to do another update for the NBA. This is April 11, 2014. I'm going to talk about the hot topics, including the race for the final spots in the Western Conference, as well as the race for the final spot in the Eastern Conference, although that looks like it's about to be wrapped up, and the fight for the top spot in the East between the Pacers and the Heat, which will culminate tonight on ESPN, and that game is going to be a good one. And as the Heat are half a game behind Indiana for the top spot, and Miami has been staggering as of late. They lost 3 of the last 4, including Tuesday night loss to the Brooklyn Nets on a block by Plumlee to LeBron James, stuffed at the end that killed that one. And then the Heat got dismantled by the Grizzlies in the fourth quarter the next day to lose that game. So that's their story. The Pacers got in a tough one where the coach Vogel decided to sit the starters, but they still eked out a win over the worst team in the East, the Bucks. And that was probably a little bit closer than what it should have been, but a win's a win. And like they went to some unfamiliar faces to win that one in the very end. So now we look at the two. Well, before we look at the game in depth and I'm just gonna say who's gonna win. Then I'm gonna look at the schedule. I think the Heat win just because they're at home. That's really the only reason. I mean, the Heat have been struggling, but the Pacers haven't really done anything that much better. Been playing that much better as of recent, as they have lost 5 of the last 7 games, and their 2 wins came against the Bucks, as of like I said a couple nights ago, and the Detroit Pistons, who are just awful. Now, and this 5 out of 7 came since the last time they played the Heat, which is a 1-point victory in Indiana. Now, Miami, since that game, they started out well after that game. They crushed the Pistons and Bucks, as they should. Then they beat the Raptors, who are 3rd seed in the East, I believe. Beat the Bucks again, and lost by 1 point over, and then this is where the 3 out of 4 losses came from. They lost in overtime by 1 point to the T-Wolves. They beat the Knicks on Sunday ABC game, and then the other 2, the Nets and the Grizzlies, I already mentioned. Now, the rest of the schedule works out like the Pacers played the Heat tonight, the Thunder on Sunday on ABC, and then they end the season at Orlando. Now, the Orlando game should be a cakewalk, but the Miami OKC, this could really decide if they really want home court or not. The Heat, on the other hand, play the Pacers, the Hawks, who are still fighting for the last playoff spot. They look like they're about to clinch that. The Wizards and the 76ers. So really, aside from the Pacers, I think the Heat should very well win out. So this is why this game is just absolutely huge. And I think this is more of a must-win for the Pacers than I think it's a must-win for the Heat. Because the Pacers, they faced the Heat 2 years in a row without home court advantage in the postseason and got ousted. They got ousted in 6 games in 2012 and ousted in Game 7 in a blowout fashion, I believe, in Game 7. So this is why I think the Pacers need to win more, but I think Miami gets it together and wins tonight. Now, as I was saying about the Eastern Conference, I'm going to go ahead and touch that real quick between the Hawks and Knicks. Sorry. It's official that the Cavaliers are eliminated from playoff contention. I didn't mention them earlier because I didn't think they were even close. They probably made their playoff hopes last longer than it probably should have. But, I mean, they're going to be a good team eventually in a few years, but not right now. But I think it's important that they keep Kyrie Irving, because if they let him go, then you remember the 2010-11 season? They're going to have another one of those. Sorry, my throat's a little bit off today. But anyway, let's take a look at the Knicks. They're down 2 games from the Hawks for the last spot. And they have the Raptors on the road tonight. And if they lose, to me, if the Knicks lose tonight, it's over. They have to win this huge road game against the Raptors. Oh, really? They play the Raptors, Bulls, Nets, and Raptors. They're all playoff contenders. I see no way the Knicks survive this, and being down 2 games from the Hawks does not help them at all. And I think it's pretty much set in stone that the Hawks are just going to grab that last spot, and they're going to move away with it. I mean, I know the Hawks got a tough one tonight against the Nets. Then they play the Heat, but And then, but they got to realize, well, and they got the Bobcats, which could be tough, but I think the Hawks win that. And then they play the Bucks. I mean, I don't see any way that the Hawks drop it. Now, I also expect the Hawks will probably get swept in the first round, but that's another. But I'll get to that in my playoff prediction preview, next Thursday or Friday. I haven't decided which day I wanted to do it yet. Now the hot topic, the final spots for the West, and now Golden State. I still think they're going to make the playoffs, but it still should be mentioned that there's only 2 games that separate 6th place from 9th place in the West. Golden State, and then it's Phoenix, who are a game behind them. Dallas, who's also a game behind them and tied with Phoenix, but I think Phoenix has the better conference record, which is why they're ahead right now. And then you got Memphis, who's 1 game behind Phoenix and Dallas, and 2 behind Golden State. Now, the only way I could see Golden State being in trouble is if they lose tonight to the Lakers, because then they got to go play Portland on Sunday at Portland, and that could be a tough game for them. And that's really the only way. But even then, you look at it and you see Phoenix plays Dallas, Phoenix plays Dallas, then Phoenix plays Memphis on Monday, and then Dallas plays Memphis. So losses are going to cancel each other out. So I see no way Golden State misses it, and they'll probably have it clinched in the final couple days. So I'm not going to get too into depth, but I can tell you they have a road game tonight against the Lakers on NBA TV, I think. And then they play the Blazers, which could be tough, seeing as on the road, but that's really their last real road block. So that's that. And I'm not saying the Lakers could beat them because they're a good team. I'm saying the Lakers, if they have one of their hot shooting nights, they could beat them. As what happened last time they faced in LA. So that's that. So let's get down to right now. 7th is Phoenix, and we all know their last few games are the Spurs tonight at San Antonio. Then they play tomorrow night at Dallas, who's 8th seed, and then they're at home on Monday against the other team fighting for a spot, the Grizzlies, and then they finish the season at Sacramento, who can be pretty scrappy at home. So if you're going to ask me who had the toughest task of the Phoenix, Dallas, Memphis, I'm going to say Phoenix because they still got to play the Spurs and they got to play them on the road. And then they got to play Dallas, who's going to be on desperate strength after suffering a loss last night at the hands of the Spurs on their home court. I think I said earlier that I can't remember what I said. Did I say Phoenix was going to miss? Yeah. Due to the schedule. Now, I don't know. I think maybe I think it all comes down to what happens the next 2 days. If the Suns win at least one of those games, then I think they'll just get in. If they lose them both, then the questions start coming around because the Grizzlies' next 2 games are the 76ers, and they do have a road game against the Lakers, and that could be a dangerous game, but they should certainly beat the 76ers at the very least before Monday's potential death match for the final spot. And then, so trying to get back on track here. As for Dallas, they have 2 games left. Phoenix and Memphis. They have Phoenix tomorrow night, and they play the Grizzlies, which is now an ESPN game. It knocked off the Hawks-Bucks game, thank God. And do I think that game is going to come down to who gets the last spot? I think Dallas beats Phoenix tomorrow. So let me get that out of the way. And I know the quickest way for Dallas to clinch is if Phoenix loses tonight and Dallas wins tomorrow. Now, of course, if Phoenix wins the next 2 games, then it's a wrap. They took care of their business. They're in the show. It's going to be a tough stretch, man. And then Memphis, okay, now I got to go with the rest of their schedule. I think I already mentioned it pretty much. They play the Sixers tonight. Should be an easy win. Lakers Sunday on the road. Then they have a back-to-back game Monday against the Suns. And then they finish the season Wednesday at home, which they won, I believe, now 13 straight home games against the Dallas Mavericks. Now, how do I think the seeds are going to align at the end? Now, like I said, I think Dallas will beat Phoenix tomorrow. I'm not so sure the Suns will beat the Spurs tonight, even if Tim Duncan sits or whatever the case may be for tonight. I think the Spurs want to win tonight because so they can officially clinch home court for the entire playoffs. Or would it be for the entire playoffs? Home court can be clinched with a win tonight. So I think they're going to do it all for the home fans. And I know them and the Suns still have some kind of a rivalry. So there is that. So so I have Phoenix losing the next two. I think I'm gonna have them beating Phoenix or Memphis just for the fact that they're at home, and I think they will beat Sacramento, despite it could be a scrappy game. So I have them finishing 2-2 of the last games. I have Dallas at least beating Phoenix. The Memphis game is still a toss-up, even though Dallas has taken all three against the Grizzlies, which could be very helpful at the very end. Now Memphis, of course, they played two very winnable games the next two games, and then they got the Suns on the second night of a back-to-back on Monday. And then they got the Mavericks. And I think they'll end up going 2-2. Maybe. I think 2-2, no better than 3-1. They're not going to win all four. They're going to drop one of those. So that's that. Who I think will be on the outside of it all when it's all said and done. If I say, well, I can't really. Then again, the way I said Phoenix would beat Memphis, so now it makes me look like saying I think Memphis is gonna miss it, and they very well could. And it's honestly, this is one of the toughest end of West playoff races I ever had to decipher. So I think I said Phoenix before. I think I'm gonna stand by it because just in case the Suns, I have them losing the next two games, but there's a high chance they could lose to the Grizzlies at home. It's all going to come down to that game for them, honestly. If they don't win at least one of these next two games, it's going to come down to that game on Monday. But this playoff race is going to be very exciting to watch. So stay tuned. I will be back when the season is over and the playoffs are determined from top to bottom, and I'm going to go through each of the playoff matchups. Over and out.